Oh. Ooh. Is that better? Okay, so let me start over. Welcome this evening to our February board meeting. It's nice to have y'all here with us this evening. And we have, Trish is with us remotely this evening. She's up on the screen. And Janine Bieber is not feeling well tonight, so she couldn't be here. Otherwise, everyone else is here this evening. We're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation, God, indivisible, with justice for all. The next item on our agenda is non-instructional budget presentation, and our superintendent, John Luthringer, and business official, Bonnie Hart, will be doing that for us.
Okay. Nope, I'm just testing the, perfect. Thank you, Dean. Yes, thank you so much, Katie and the Board of Education. We're pleased tonight to present the non-instructional budget presentation. This is the start of really the budget season, but budget has been, it's really a year-long process. We are always paying attention to the budget, but once the calendar year turns to January, we certainly start to get information from the state in how our budgets are shaping up. And then we go from there, leading all the way up into April and then all the way to the budget vote in May. So tonight will be a series of presentations. We're going to go into some pretty significant detail tonight of important information that we've learned from the state, impacts to our non-instructional budget, but also talk a little bit about ways that we're working through some of the issues that you've probably heard about in the news. We'll talk a little bit more about. But it's always important to start with our mission, vision, and values, because everything that we do comes back to this, whether it be non-instructional budget, instructional budget, operations, building and grounds, everything relates back to our kids and the work that we're trying to do and what we're trying to foster here. So when we think about, our mission of, fostering lifelong learners, leaders, and global citizens, everything in the budget comes back to that. And this is what it's about. It's about our kids. When you look at these images, our budget supports everything that you see here, from the arts, music, to actual art, to robotics, to just general instruction, to athletics, to reading, having kids have fun outside, enjoying the great area that we have in Lake George. Everything that we do and we plan for supports this here. These are the photos of our kids, and even more so important this year with some of the things that we're going to share with you. So Bonnie and I are going to kind of tag team this a little bit, and we're going to be back and forth. So turn it over to Bonnie for a few slides.
Thank you, John. As John indicated, the budget development is a work in progress, and we're early on compared to what you will hear in April or May, where it's more finalized. Often we say not all costs are known at this time, which is true. We will be getting more finalized cost, in particular from our partnership with BOCES. But to add to that, the governor's proposal is definitely not finalized at this time, and that could have quite a significant impact one way or another on our budget. So I feel like there's two parts that are definitely a work in progress between the state aid aspect as well as the cost. So talking about the governor's budget proposal, which was released mid-January, Lake George is looking at, if it is adopted, a significant cut in foundation aid. And if we go back, a little history lesson with what is foundation aid, it's been around for decades, and schools would receive their state aid one of two ways. One is based on a very long formula that has many factors, and then when a school is what they consider fully funded, then they would be guaranteed the same amount of foundation aid as the year before that they received the year before, called a save, hold harmless provision. So a school is either hold harmless, where they're guaranteed the same foundation aid as the year before, or on a formula. I believe all schools were fully funded on the formula as of last year. The governor decided to eliminate in her proposal the hold harmless provision, which means we would go back to the formula. Hold harmless provision's been around since the 1970s. The formula was reworked back in 2007. So that $664,000 cut is based on the formula, which at the next slide I will get into the different aspects of that formula. The other things you see here, the next section is a bunch of state aid, some very small, but I just lumped it all together. We're looking at a slight increase based on the governor's proposal. UPK is more of an allocation per pupil. It's not even run through our general fund, it's run through a special aid fund. Some people add that as an increase or a plus, but the cost of UPK will be greater than the $97,000 that is allocated for that. So the yellow, which is down there, which is interesting, I'll get into the formula constraints in a minute, but if, two big ifs here, if the governor fully restores foundation aid, so we're guaranteed the amount we received last year, and if they use the inflation rate, what it currently is in the formula, then we could be receiving additional money, which is a big swing from a negative 664,000 to a positive 138. But that's two big ifs that have to occur. So on this slide, getting back into that foundation aid, which is the bulk of our state aid. Again, there was the save harmless provision, which Lake George has been on for a long time, which guarantees the foundation aid from the year before. That has been slashed. When we talk about the foundation formula that we are now on, it's based on many different factors. The biggest is student enrollment. So as we know, student enrollment has been declining significantly here. Some other interesting facts about the formula is 2 decades ago in 2000, if you had a poverty level, and if your poverty level has increased, you've shown improvement, you get more aid. And if your decreased, you got more aid. And if your poverty level increased, you got less aid based on this formula. The lower inflation rate, the governor used a 10-year average of the inflation, so 2.4 in the formula, instead of what it currently is. And we know with the tax cap, the greatest we could start with for inflation is 2%. So what happens when you're on the formula? It negatively impacts not just Lake George, but many school districts. In New York State, 336 districts are set to have cuts, some significant cuts. North Country, especially small rural schools, are definitely feeling this impact, and if you have declining enrollment.
So just to touch a little bit on our region here, is this was a very unexpected and surprise by the governor. Not even the Commissioner on Education was aware of these cuts to state aid, nor was any school leaders or even legislative leaders. So this was pretty unprecedented for the proposal. And it affects not just Lake George. So this is just giving some perspective here again, and you can see some of these percentages of schools. Bolton seeing almost a 41% reduction in state aid, Indian Lake, Lake George, Newcomb, North Warren. And then these are some of the numbers here. And I'll just point out a few of them. Even, Schuylerville here has seen a $2.1 million reduction in their aid. This is significant. It affects schools in our region. It affects schools, as Bonnie said, disproportionately, smaller and more rural schools like Lake George and schools in the North Country that are experiencing declining enrollment. So this is a regional and really a state issue. In our BOCES, there's 31 schools. Of that, so the total aid loss for our region is north of $12.5 million that is lost, that the districts were expecting. And you can see the percentages there. We fall into this category here of having over a 25% loss of state aid. Statewide loss is over $167 million that's not going towards students. And our BOCES percentage is around 7.5% loss. What's interesting about this next slide here, you'll notice a couple things. So school districts are put into categories based off their wealth, their land wealth ratio, their poverty levels, all sorts of different factors. In the governor's proposal, New York City and the Big Five are large city schools: Rochester, Buffalo, Yonkers, Albany, and Syracuse. Those make up the Big Five. They have seen a zero reduction. They were not touched in this proposal. And then what I want to point out here is that the majority of the foundation aid cut affects average needs school districts. And Lake George is an average needs school district. On our school report card, when you factor in our demographics and you factor in our land wealth ratio, we are an average need district. We're no longer a low needs district. We are an average needs. So again, this proposal by the governor in the executive budget is negatively impacting many average needs schools. And again, 336 schools across the state. So roughly 51% of the schools in New York State are negatively impacted by this. I'm going to segue for a second here into a little bit about enrollment, because this is an important factor in this. As Bonnie mentioned, the foundation aid formula is heavily dependent on enrollment. And as we know, all of our schools in our region and our state are really experiencing a decline in enrollment. And I just want to touch a little bit on this, and I'm going to explain a few different slides here. So this is statistics from the National Center for Education Statistics on school enrollment here. And these are from the years 2010 to 2021. And you can see the states that are experiencing declining enrollment. New York is coming in at a 7% decrease over those years in student enrollment. But I'm going to show you what a projection. The next map is a projection. So you can see the states in larger, the more darker green are states that are seeing an increase. So we know people are moving, if you look at the Northeast, are moving out of the Northeast to, different states for a variety of reasons, jobs, climate, et cetera. But watch what happens from 2021. So projecting out the next 10 years. So this is going out to 2031. And what you're going to notice here, again, the states that were seeing the decline continue to see the decline. So New York State is projected to actually double of students enrollment decreasing. So again, less students in schools. But what I want to point out is some of those states that were growing are now not growing as much or even in decline. So you can see this was heavily, if I go back a second, again, growing the last 10 years, not growing here. Even Florida is decreasing. And the reason for that is there's a lot of reasons, but number one is people are having less kids. That's number one. The fertility rate is 1.5 right now. So families are having one, maybe two kids, and they're having them later in life. And we also know, again, people are moving for different reasons. There's an out-migration crisis in New York State in particular. People are leaving the state. But really what this gets at is people are ultimately having less students. So this is a national, declining enrollment is a national issue. It's not a Lake George issue. Again, it's in New York, it's a national issue, and many schools are experiencing that. So a little bit about our enrollment. Again, so you've seen this slide before. So this goes back from the 2002, 2003 students. So at one time, Lake George was at 1,100 students. We're currently, now we're going to talk a little bit about this. This number here is our Beds Day enrollment. This is in October. So we've over those years, it's been about a 45% reduction in enrollment. So keep in mind the foundation aid cuts, which we'll come back to, are heavily reliant on enrollment. But again, look at the region. Every single school predominantly are seeing reductions. Big schools, small schools, It does not matter. This is just another way to represent it. Again, we've seen declining enrollment going across for the last 20 plus years. This is statewide peer school districts. So again, there was a study done in Lake George, a CASDA study a few years back that had many different schools that were of similar demographics, similar size. Some of them are close to us, some of them are not, like Cooperstown and Lake Placid. But what you can see is all these schools are facing the same decline in enrollment. But the one thing to point out is that you'll see here, some of these schools are starting to level off. They're starting to reach that sort of plateau where they might continue on with a consistent enrollment. We haven't quite reached that in Lake George. We're still in the decline. And so are some of the other schools, but a lot of them have started to level off. So this is an important slide here because I remember me saying this number here, 610. So this represents our Beds Day enrollment. You have our elementary school. This is the Beds Day color from October, and our high school, junior, senior high school here. The red represents current enrollment. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because we've had a bit of an anomaly this year where we've had quite a few students exit this year for a variety of reasons. Our homeless population, we have some students that are, displaced. They're put in Lake George for a period of time, and then they're taken out through social services. We have students moving for jobs. We've had students move out for that as well. So our current enrollment, we started the year at 610. Our current enrollment was actually 587. We've lost that many students this year. So this is important, though, because one of the things that the foundation aid formula is heavily reliant on enrollment. So it's something that we think will continue to be part of this proposal over the executive budget proposal over the next several years. One of the ways that we're addressing it, and I'm going to do a few slides on that, is through attrition. We've talked a lot about that, and what this slide represents here, just generally speaking, is that as our students go down, we are reducing our staff with the least amount of impact to programming as possible through attrition. So we can do it the right way, to right-size the district the right way. So this just represents, again, our staffing numbers trending downward, along coinciding our student enrollment. So just to kind of share some specifics about how we're addressing declining enrollment, just so the board is aware. Since 2008, we've actually, through attrition, we've reduced roughly 40 positions, 40.1 positions through attrition. So no impact to people. By June 30th of this year, so by the end of this school year, we'll have reduced another 7 full-time positions through 6 through attrition, and 1 will be reduced through reduction in force, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Those 7 through attrition for a variety of reasons, some retirements, people moving from one position to another and not needing to replace that position. So those 6 were through attrition. So by the end of this year, it'll be a reduction of roughly 47 positions total since 2008. And the intention is to continue to right-size the school district with limited impact to programming and staff. So just some other ways that we've been getting creative. We have to get creative. It's something it's important. We talk about this a lot. It's an important topic. So currently we have a K-12 school psychologist. We've reduced over time. We have 1 K-12 school psychologist. We actually have a K-8 art teacher. So we still have a high school art teacher, but we have a K-8 art teacher. So we have a teacher that teaches down at the Elm School and also comes up and teaches a couple periods in the junior senior high school. We have some shared duties and responsibilities. So we've combined our CSE chairperson and dean of students as well. So kind of taking on different roles. We've also combined responsibilities for a school secretary position, who is now overseeing athletics, CSE, and aspects of the 712 office. And one of the things we're starting now is we have an anticipated retirement in physical education. So similar to what we did with art, we're really going to be looking at this as a K-12 PE department. So we anticipate having one of our PE teachers float up and teach a period or 2 in the high school as well. So we're always trying to get creative. We're trying to, as we continue to get smaller, figure out different ways to get creative with staffing positions. There will be opportunities for future K-12 shared positions. We know that's going to be our reality as we move forward. this is a reality as well. Continue to potentially explore shared services through BOCES or potentially regional school districts. I really don't believe this is too far out. We have districts calling constantly as jobs open. There's less people applying for jobs. There's less educators out there. There's less administrators out there. So when you think about sharing, that is something that's going to be on the horizon. One of the things we're really looking at as we get smaller is consolidating and restructuring of our bus runs. There'll be more to come about that, but it's something Bonnie and Andy Raymond, our Director of Transportation, we've been talking a lot about. Can we be more efficient? Can we, as we get smaller, can we, look at our bus runs and look at how we go into different neighborhoods and things to really be more efficient as we get smaller? We know we still have athletic needs. We have club needs after school. We have to get the buses back quicker. So it's something we're really looking at this spring and going into next year. And this is, of course, we're doing this a lot. We're collaborating with the town and village. There is a need for affordable family housing in our community. It's not going to fix the declining enrollment, but it could help kind of that soft landing if we can continue to get some housing here. And we know we've got student, and I just heard we might have another student at Sun Valley Apartments moving in. So that's a good sign. And then we need to continue to share our story. We're proud of Lake George. We're proud of our programming, small school, big opportunities. It's a great place to live and be here. So we're currently working with a former student on a sort of a Why Lake George video. We're doing updated program brochures so we can get them out in the community at different areas of the village, especially during the tourism time where people are here. They can see all the great things we offer. And we're excited about this video opportunity too, to kind of showcase what K-12 looks like here. So we're working with a former student who graduated, who has started a business. He's an entrepreneur, and we're working with him on that. So we are doing lots of different things to try to entice people to come and live here. But affordable housing is a big one. So with all of that, as we segue back to budget here, and I just, again, as we plan, we're really planning on two different factors or sort of two different lenses here. The first one is we have to plan through the lens of declining enrollment. That's just our reality. So as positions come up through attrition, as people retire, or people move on from a different position, we have to look at that because that's the best way to do it, with limiting the impact of programming or having potentially no impact of programming. With that though, because of this anomaly this year, I will be recommending that we have a reduction in force of at least one reduction in force to address the decline in enrollment. So that will be a resolution at some point later this spring. So that's the first factor. And then of course, we have the second factor here, which is about the executive budget proposal, which is what Bonnie was talking about in the beginning, where we've had this reduction of aid loss here, $664,000. And if that's not restored, and we're going to talk about some advocacy and some things that we're doing, if that's not restored, we anticipate additional reduction of force would be necessary to close that budget deficit. And if that were to be the case, there would likely be impact to programming, unfortunately. Now, we would limit that as much as possible, and we would talk more about what that specifics would be, but there's no way to reduce this gap without those two elements. So we'll talk towards the end a little bit about advocacy and the work we're doing with our staff members and certainly the Board of Education on ways that we can advocate to have that aid restored. But I'll segue back to Bonnie.
Thank you. So the budget is broken into three parts, and we break it each month. We cover one section. This month, we're really focusing on the non-instructional budget. Next month, we'll talk about the instructional budget. And then in April is what's called the undistributed in the revenue budget. The undistributed section is your health benefits, your TRS, ERS, workman's comp, overhead cost. So what we do know, though, we have to look at all three components of the budget, even in the very beginning, because we know our contractual obligations for salaries. We have a very strong 15 to 16% increase in health insurance, no less than 15, no more than 16. So when we're looking at the non-instructional budget, we have to keep in mind those other parts of the budget. So with the governor's proposal, with the overhead cost, you might say, how do you budget? Because there could be such a swing from the governor's proposal with a major cut, possible cut. If it's fully restored, if it's partially restored, if it's fully restored with a new inflation rate, then we're looking at a positive, an increase in state aid. So this budget that I'm presenting here is being optimistic that foundation aid will be restored. A lot of indications is hopefully that it will be. If not, then there will be additional adjustments to this part of the budget, as well as the other parts of the budget that we can adjust. Some things we just can't. So in the non-instructional budget, there are 4 components: general support, administrative services, central services, which is your building and ground maintenance, and transportation. So the second column there, you could see last year's budget. The middle column is what's in the proposed budget at this time. Again, once we get more exact cost, I can make adjustments. And assuming, again, that foundation aid is fully restored. And then you could see the dollar change. So we've made as many adjustments as we feel we could possibly do, which shows a $9,000 increase or 0.24%. You might say, how did we do that? Of those 7 positions that John was talking about that we've already removed from the budget, several of them are in this component of the budget. So under general support, that's a slight increase of about $3,800. The bulk of the cost here, you can see the different categories. A lot of it is your election costs, your machines that we have to pay for, the ballots, in addition to BOCES software and services such as board docs or, just things for day-to-day operations. Administrative services is a $12,000 increase. That's your district administration in both the business office as well as superintendent's office. And then our legal fees, public information, records. Central services is your building and grounds, and then transportation speaks for itself. This visual graph shows the 4 components and the percent of each one. The bulk of the money in this part of the non-instructional budget is for day-to-day operations, building and grounds, and maintenance. So some of the items that we did include in the building and grounds is equipment. We have a cafeteria dishwasher that will not be functioning, and we will not be able to open in September without a functioning dishwasher. So that is a must. Our computer server room will not function if it gets overheated, so it needs a split pack. There currently in the budget is a Kubota field tractor for the building and grounds. The gym floor refinish is the state mandate with the removal of the logo, so we have to do that by 2025. We've been maintaining a carpet and painting replacement cycle, so we do so much each and every year, so it's not all at once. And then our day-to-day requirements of permits and inspections, supplies, materials. For transportation, most of it stays flat. Some of the salaries did go down, but fuel costs, as we all feel, are going up. And I do want to talk a little bit about the proposition, which will be on the next slide as well. The timing is not ideal with the governor's cut and foundation aid, but we have to look long-term, and we have to look long-term at mandates, unfunded mandates that are coming our way, and also look at, are there funding sources available? And one of those unfunded mandates coming our way is the EV electric bus mandate. It may change, but as of right now, and starting in 2027, every bus you purchase has to be EV. If we wait until 2035, which every bus in your fleet has to be, then we're looking at multiple buses in 1 year to purchase. In addition, the funding sources may not be there as they are now. So this is tentative. This is to be determined because we are still waiting to hear on some of the rebates and grants that we applied for. If we do receive the NYSERDA rebate, which is a $208,000 rebate we would receive, and we also applied for the Clean Bus Act, which is an additional $145,000. The timing of these, we don't know. If they stay to the deadlines, then we should know in time for the budget. The NYSERDA rebate was supposed to be released in January. That's looking like we'll hear real soon. Clean Bus is not till late April. But if we do receive both, that would be great. If we receive one, we're looking at putting up a proposition to get an EV bus not to exceed 210,000. It very well may be less, depending if we get the additional rebates. This would replace a 2015 existing gas bus. What is nice, I guess that's probably not the right word, but what we can do with this is maintain our financing band schedule, bond anticipation note. And currently, all of our buses are banned for 5 years. It's like your loan on it. And you would think with an EV bus, often they encourage you to expand that because the cost of EV bus is much greater than a gas bus. So they'll say, ban it for 12 years instead of 5. But utilizing the rebates, if we get them, we're able to maintain that 5-year ban. So the net difference would be the same as a gas bus.
So as I said before, one of the things that's really critical at this time of year, in any legislative season, is advocating. So as a region, the board approved last month our regional advocacy priorities. Several of them were there. But even more so this year, because of the governor's proposal, how critical it is to advocate for fully restoring foundation aid, as it's negatively impacting our district. So we've created a section on our website about advocacy. This is just an example of what it looks like. There's information on our legislative priorities. There's information on local representatives and their contact information. But we also have a section on there called Take Action. And in this section here, we shared this at our staff meeting that we had with all of our staff members yesterday. We're encouraging anybody, anyone to participate in this. And we created a template email here. So when you go to our website and you click on that, it forces you to make a copy. It's a form letter, but it is tailored to what's happening specifically to Lake George Central School District. And it includes what we're looking for. We're looking for restoring foundation aid. It can be personalized to who it can come from. It can be personalized who to send it to. And on our website, there's email links and addresses for our local legislators. So Assemblyman Simpson and Senator Steck and Governor Hochul would be the 3 people that I would target. Our administrative team, we've encouraged all of our staff to send letters because volume matters. And we will be hopefully looking to have that foundation aid restored. So as we continue forward here, Bonnie, I know we've got the future budget meetings coming up. So March 12th, we'll have the instructional budget presentation. April 9th will be undistributed budget and anticipated revenues presentation. At that board meeting, May 7th will be our public hearing on a proposed budget, meet the candidates night, and then leading up to May 21st for the annual meeting and budget vote. So I know that was a long and detailed presentation. I'm sure you have some questions, or if not, we can answer questions at any time. But certainly, if there's any questions, we can do our best.
Thank you to start with for your, that was really helpful and very user-friendly presentation. I very much appreciate the creativity that is going on with the staffing positions and shared services partnerships and having it a priority to keep our programs intact. And the advocacy piece on the website, I do have a question. I'm thrilled about that. How are community members and family members aware that that's an option?
We just rolled it out yesterday. So
Okay.
we wanted to start with our staff and certainly at the board level as well, but we'll be putting some information out through Parent Square
Okay.
and on our website. And we have a new group, the community outreach group that we have through Parent Square that actually people have been enrolling in, which is exciting. So we'll be putting something together to go out to the community.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment. I just really appreciate the detailed, well, especially the slide on how Lake George is addressing declining enrollment and just the transparency and detailed nature of that is just makes it easier to make sense out of like the sobering realities of declining enrollment. And I just think it's helpful. So thank you.
Anybody else? Trish,
Thanks.
you're-
Cindy. Yep. Thanks for.
I don't know if you have any
Thank you
questions.
so much, John. And I really appreciate the thought and the effort in this, knowing what's happening with salaries too, and how we want to support our team but with I guess one of my questions I have is, do you know what advocacy pieces are going on with rural schools, the Rural Schools Association?
Yeah. So Dave Little is the director of rural schools. He has come out in really possibly the most forceful of that we've seen in opposition to the governor's foundation aid cuts. His and the rural schools organization this is their priority because smaller schools than Lake George will not, and I don't say this lightly, will not survive these cuts. They just will not. They do not have they don't have a means to make up the foundation aid cuts. So Dave Little, I would say, and just recently has come out publicly with a very, very strong statement in opposition. We are also hearing from all organizations to include representatives from New York State Teachers Association, along with the Administrative Association and the Superintendent's Association, all very much lockstep in the same priority. So while we have other priorities, this is taking the forefront right now.
Right. Excellent. Well, John, thank you. Bonnie, thank you so much. That was really well presented.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the elementary school update with our elementary principal, Mr. Jim Conway.
All right. I have some lighter items, so that's a good thing. Valentine's Day tomorrow, so that's always exciting at the elementary school. A couple of things to mention. Saturday, February 3rd, our elementary school had our first VEX robotics competition. Our kids have been involved in first Lego League for about 6 or 7 years, and we made the transition to VEX. This was the first competition. We had students in 5th and 6th grade, along with junior high students. Dante Saletti, Jeff Bizon did a great job organizing those kids. Mr. Luthringer was there. I had a chance to see our kids in action and they were excited. Our families were excited as they've been in past competitions. So it's been a successful venture as of now. So I look forward to big things for our students and for our teachers that are doing great work with those kids. Had a chance at curriculum committee tonight to talk a little bit about pre-K and the movement that we've had. On the 5th of February, John, Ashley Gershon, Elena Levine, who will be our pre-K teacher, and myself had a chance to visit 3 neighboring districts who were gracious enough to host us, Queensbury, Jackson Heights and Glens Falls and Bolton. And we certainly learned some things about the steps that they've taken in their programs. And I want you to know that we are moving forward in a really good way with our curriculum and with the process that we're following. And I know the community is very excited. The response and feedback has been very positive, and I'm excited to have this in place. And thank you to Mr. Luthringer for his work on moving everything forward. I know some of you are wondering when Airband is. That might be one of your priorities. So I want to let you know that it is still happening. It's moved to Friday, April 12th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the high school. And then I have a couple of our action team items. So we have our staff members, all of our K-12 staff members are on different action teams that are supporting opportunities for our students. One of those is in connection to a STEAM night that we're going to be holding. And we've kind of combined two evenings. So we're going to do a little pilot test run to see how this goes. Our math night and science night are now a STEAM night on March 21st. 5 to 7, if you're interested in joining us. There'll be a lot of stations involved, including things like painting with magnets. I don't know what that means. Make your own harmonica, a VEX robotics demonstration, Lego tallest tower building, mapping the lake. Lots of different activities combining all of those components with STEAM. Another action team, part of our focus on reading and goal setting for our students to continue to grow as readers. Our PART program is taking a little shift this year, actually a big shift. We are participating in the Read for Ronald McDonald House program. And there is, the students will be involved. All of our students will be involved. Some may be involved in supporting the cause, the Ronald McDonald cause, by getting sponsorship for the reading that they do. And as you may know, there's a Ronald McDonald House, retreat house on Ottawa Street right here in the village, across from St. James. So we're excited about that. That's new for us. In keeping with the reading theme, Battle the Books, Monday, March 11th at SUNY Adirondack. And we will have teams, as we always do, in grades 3 through 6. And we have a long history of our kids being excited and finding success at this event. They work really, really hard along with all of the advisors, our teachers who advise them throughout this process. Evening Career Fair, some of you attended last year. We had our first venture into having a fair for our students. So it's a second annual, March 7th from 5 to 7 in the elementary school gym. Provides our students in K through 6 an opportunity to meet with people that are in different professions in our community. So we're excited about that. And then finally, I may have mentioned this already, but I want you to mark your calendars because kids will be sending you an invitation. Our Leadership Day on June 18th, 8:15 a.m. is going to be our ceremony, our leadership ceremony, 8:15 to about 8:45. And we're putting that all together where kids are involved in giving tours to guests. Their parents are going to visit on that day for the first time. We haven't done that before. So we're excited to have our students share what they're proud about in their days and in their school. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Jim. I had the good fortune of attending the Leadership Day last year, and those kids were so impressive. That was a really awesome day. So I look forward to that.
Great.
And did you say that math night is expanded into STEAM?
It's combined. So we're having a STEAM night. So we're combining our science and math forces and trying to build something new and unique.
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson's out there. He's on that committee, but how many folks, Brian? 10 folks maybe about 10 people on that team. And they've got a lot of really good things, some collaboration with outside agencies and it will be a good family event.
That's exciting. Well,
Yeah.
and I love the concept of STEAM. And for people who don't know what that is, it used to be, there was STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and an A in the middle of
Arts.
that is arts.
Yeah.
And so to expand it in that way, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything
Thank you.
else? Next item is secondary update with our junior senior high school principal, Mr. Frank Koza.
Hi, good evening. So March will come in like a lion. It's that fun month where how much can we fit in, Jim, in the month of March? All right, so we're going to start out very loudly on Friday, March 1st. Drumline will continue its annual tradition of opening the South High Marathon Dance. So Mrs. Baker is honored each year to be asked. We don't take it for granted that we open that community's and this area's largest school fundraiser with the South High Dance. So that's Friday, March 1st. You can't be there, but you can watch it by streaming it on your computer and listen to Drumline open up their dance. March 3rd through the 6th, OAS, our college level high school class for 12th graders, will be venturing to Washington, D.C. and visiting the embassies of Barbados and the Dominican Republic, the two countries that they are mock representing this year. So our students in that class will tour D.C. and visit those embassies and get some time with the ambassadors of those two countries. Save the date, April 17th, which is a Wednesday. Mrs. Breslin, Mrs. Hoffman, the business department, and our FBLA, we have retooled the job fair that we have hosted for the past several years, and we've moved it to the evening. So it will be Wednesday, April 17th from 4 to 6. And the thinking behind that is not only will we offer this opportunity for summer employment and interactions with summer employment opportunities for our kids, but also for the wider community. So the job fair will be open to the wider community 4 to 6 on April 17th. So all area employees, all area employers will be looking for employees here at our school on that date. And Brendan and Karen are great in collaborating with the workforce development of Warren County. Also save the date for March 22nd and 23rd, our musical. We're performing Mean Girls, so you can buy tickets at the door. Also March 1st, you can buy tickets online starting on March 1st. But the dates of the musical are Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd. And then John, Jim, Megan, and I, and the faculty and staff of the entire district are pleased to formally announce to the board the top 10%, the senior class, the honor group of the class of 2024. Because there are 55 members of the class of 2024, there are 6 members of the honor group. Earlier last week, we announced it to our staff in our buildings, and we're pleased to announce it to the wider community. I'm going to read them alphabetically, so they're in alphabetical order. The 6 members of the senior class honors group: Sam Burns, Anthony Halliday, Max Perry, Anna Rakiki, Val Tennyson, and Camden Woolfield. So a distinct honor to be part of the honor group, and the top 10% will start working with me very soon in planning their June graduation, which is just around the corner. That's everything, Katie.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? It's always exciting to hear all this stuff going on. Thank you so much, Fran. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent report. So we'll have Mr. John Luthranger, our superintendent, back up with us.
Yes, I know I've spoken a lot tonight, so just a quick couple updates here. One of the things that's been new for the district is from the Department of Labor requirement, and I know Mary Ann will talk a little bit about that from the policy update, but we're required to have a new policy called workplace violence, and that workplace violence prevention policy. So that is not a new regulation from the Department of Labor. It's been in existence since 2006, but schools across the state are now required to create a policy, have their facilities evaluated for areas of risk. So for example, I'll give just a hypothetical here. Since 2006, all public municipalities have been required to have a policy in place. So when you think of somebody who, in our business office, we have a safe, and not that it has really a lot of money, but when we do collect money for different clubs or activities, there's money in the safe. So that would be an area that could lead to potential for higher risk of workplace violence, or someone maybe coming from the community outside. And that's a stretch, but that is something that they look for. They could look for lighting in a parking lot in districts. So we did work with our safety consultants, the Needham Group, and they came and we did walkthroughs of all of our buildings. They complimented us multiple times on our safety procedures and different aspects that we've got in our buildings, to include our school resource officers. So they will evaluate, they'll send us some areas that they think we could work on, areas to highlight, and that comes into our program. But part of that is we have to have a policy, and we're required to have district personnel review that, work on it together, collaborate. We've gone through that step. That now comes to the board for their review. And then we also have to have an incident reporting form, and along with annual training. So we're developing those. This all has to be done and adopted. All 5 steps here has to be done by the early May. The Department of Labor will audit districts, and it is something that is important, certainly. So we are scheduled to have our training. We have to do annual training. That's going to occur on March 11th at our superintendent's conference day. That is for all staff. It is required. And it will be our first training, and then we'll have to have subsequent years after, we have to have annual training on this. Speaking of our superintendent's conference day, we're excited for our staff day. So a portion of that will be dedicated to our workplace violence training. There will be a portion of the day dedicated to continued curriculum development, important time for our departments and our teachers to work together on our new curriculum renewal cycle, which our curriculum committee heard a lot about tonight. And then also in the afternoon, we're going to have some opportunities for team building and wellness activities. So we've got a really nice cross section of the day planned out to continue the relationship building, curriculum work, and additional training for that day. So March 11th, Monday, will be a staff conference day. And then just a quick update on our late buses as well. So we've been doing a trial for our late bus. We've added a third late bus to Wednesday and Thursday, the peak days for our activities. It's been going very well. We've gotten some really great feedback from families who have emailed Mr. Conway or Ms. Kokoza or myself. They're excited about it. It is definitely reducing the amount of time our students are on a bus to get home. So we're at that point now where we head into February break. Bonnie and I will be here. We'll be looking at some data and really some talking with our drivers and our transportation director on kind of what the next steps look like. We know we want this to be sustainable, but we know we have constraints that we've got to work through. So we'll be going over that over the next couple of weeks. We'll send some information out to parents about that, but we're anticipating being able to keep this going hopefully for the rest of the year, and then create a better plan for next year. But we'll be determining that in the next week or so, and we'll communicate that out. And then finally, I just want to mention, I know there's a resolution about Georgie. So we've been spending a lot of time. We've been working with our 712 students, our student advisory students, and along with our Lighthouse team on how to really bring this imagery to life that we've been developing. Over the course of January, we kind of put the, final touches on the branding guide that we've been working on. It's on our website. And now it's at a point where we know we're going to have some iterations over the years. And it's been great to get some feedback about how to bring this to life. The kids have some really, really great ideas, handing out giveaways, stickers, a costume mascot, also, different banners and different ways to try to bring this to life over the next few years. So we're going to continue to work with those teams, our Lighthouse and the elementary and our students at the 712. On how to continue to bring the Laker imagery to life. So they're really excited about it, and they have some really, really kind of interesting, exciting ideas. So we know that's a resolution for tonight as we kind of continue to try to move this forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Our next item on the agenda is the Audit and Finance Committee report, and Mario Fusulo, the chair of that committee, will give us that report.
Thanks, Katie. We reviewed the treasurer's report and the claim auditors for November and December, and we didn't see anything abnormal on there. We also reviewed the annual request for proposal schedule, the RFP. This year, we need to issue an RFP for our legal services. We are required by New York State regulations to do so. We will solicit requests in March with a due date of April. We didn't know what the process was, so we asked about it, and we are required to place an ad in the local newspaper advertising the request. And then we send letters to area firms inviting them to bid with what our requirements are. And it's the same process we use for the universal pre-K. And this is something we have to do annually to get the funding. And currently, the bids for the universal pre-K are due in February 15th. We reviewed 2 pilot agreements. One is in the draft form, and we'll talk about it in future meetings. It's not something that we're ready to move forward with right now, and our legal counsel advised us on that. The second one is between the IDA and the Brody Land Development. We reviewed it, and there was no questions or concerns. We still have the 3 classrooms that need the HVAC from the ESSER federal funds. So we did receive 1 bid for masonry work in the amount of just under $44,000. The bid was reviewed by Tetra Tech. It's within the budget, and we recommend that we award the work to that construction company. And then we spent a good amount of time. We talked about an agreement that we developed last January between the district and the village. This was in regards to the amortization schedule of the assessed value on the Lake George sewer plant property. John and Bonnie met with the village at their request because there's a provision in their contract that indicates the village can I'm sorry, that indicated the village would investigate a reassessment of the property. If the property is reassessed by the town assessor, this would impact the original schedule. And that could result in renegotiating the agreement. As we discussed together as a committee, we recommend that the district, we're not agreeable to that, to a fully exempt if they're formally requested by the village. However, if an adjustment to the assessed value of the property is honored, then the district will meet with the village to adjust the amortization schedule. And then will be reviewed at the next Audit and Finance Committee, and we'll bring to the board at a later date. The last two things we discussed were what Bonnie and John went over, and it was very thorough and a very significant presentation. Any questions? Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Mario. The next item on the agenda is the Building and Ground Committee report, and Janine Bieber, who is the chair of that committee, is not feeling well this evening, so Donna Prime is going to give that report. Thanks, Donna.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm reading Janine's notes because to be upfront and transparent, I was not at this meeting. Yeah? Can you hear me now? Okay. I don't usually speak up very much in these things. Okay, so the meeting started to review the new charters. As you all know, all the subcommittees have been developing charters and trying to be consistent for across the different board committees. So Janine proposed the new charter and the roles and responsibilities were reviewed. And at this point, the committee approved all the changes that were made, and it should be at the board level, the full board level at this point in time. Okay, good. After that, Bonnie reported on the day-to-day operations of the Building and Grounds Department. The past 2 months, the focus has been winter snow removal, athletic maintenance, and budget planning for next school year, in addition to the day-to-day operations of the building and maintenance. Some tentative items in the non-instructional budget at the time include well, this is the stuff that Bonnie just talked about, the dishwasher and the tractor. So I won't read all that because we just did it. Then they discussed the HVAC projects. Mario just discussed it a little bit. There's the existing HVAC project that involved detailed masonry work and was, at the time that she wrote this, it was open for bid. Mario just talked about how the bid came in. And then, where are we? That work is supposed to be completed by September of this year. And then there is an upcoming HVAC project, the 2024 capital outlay HVAC project was approved by the State Education Department. Plans are now available for contractors to review and submit bids. And those bids were supposed to come in on February 8th. Bonnie, did we get some bids? Okay. Oh, really? So what happens? Okay. All right. There you go. So a recommendation for approval will be made once that happens, huh? Okay, good. All right. The next big topic, this is always a big topic at the Buildings and Grounds Committee meetings, is the bus garage facility update. So submission was made to the State Education Department. The current lead time for state approval on these projects is up to 26 weeks. So we're well within the time frame that we originally planned. Tetra Tech also created a video using virtual reality. And they worked on this and showed this to 50 students in the technology classes to discuss the project design and planning, and students were able to like kind of go inside the proposed bus garage using virtual reality headsets. Jealous of them for being able to do that. But the video of the transportation facility was shared and can be viewed on the school website. Yeah, so that's cool. And the next topic, which was touched on a little bit, was the EV bus long-range planning. So a discussion ensued around the current bus fleet, the existing and new facilities and infrastructure, bus needs, the available funding sources to help assist with the long-term planning of the buses. The current state mandate is that by the year 2027, any bus we buy has to be an EV, and by 2035, all the buses in the fleet have to be electric. So when we're planning, we have to just think about the infrastructure that exists, the new infrastructure, the actual bus fleet, the needs, the funding sources, and a year-by-year overview was provided of what we currently know and the long-range plans so we can make sure we're in compliance with the mandates as they currently stand. We've already applied for 2 different funding sources, the EPA Clean School Grant and the NYSERDA rebate program. The short-term goal is to apply for funding through available funding sources combined with local allocation to purchase and do bonding for an EV bus. Hopefully have it the same net cost of a gas bus when you get all the grants in there. And again, as Bonnie discussed, there's many variables and a final determination will be made once the district hears about the status of the grant applications. And at that point, they can discuss it more with the Audit and Finance Committee. There we go. Any questions about any of that?
Thank you. I just have one comment.
easy.
John and Bonnie leave no stone unturned when it comes to grants, and I really appreciate, I mean, they really have researched that, and we're on the cutting edge of in the region for doing the electric bus work. And so thank you for that. And thank you, Donna, for that report. Does anybody have any questions? The next committee report is the Policy Committee report. Mary Ann McKenzie is the chair of that committee, and she'll give us that report.
Thanks, Katie. So there's a little bit of everything happening in policy here tonight. First, there are 4 policies moving forward to second read. Each of those was discussed at last month's board meeting. We have 5 policies moving forward being recommended to first read tonight. And the first one is 6214 incidental teaching. And this came before the policy committee by way of Erie One BOCES update. And this is an update that reflects the process for approval of incidental teaching. And it essentially states that the superintendent would be the person to assign a teacher to instruct in an area that's not otherwise covered by their license or certification if there's no one else to perform that task for up to 5 classroom hours per week, provided that approval is obtained by the district from the district superintendent for that to happen. And then and requires the school district to contact the district BOCES to understand what that process is. So that's what that update is reflective of. The next policy on first read is 7530, child abuse and maltreatment. And that is also came to the policy committee from Erie One BOCES with an update that essentially there was an amendment. It reflects an amendment to Ed Law Section 1125, which changes the definition of child abuse to include the use of corporal punishment. And so that is the change that's in the policy. And just as a side note, we recognize that within that policy, the district is to provide training for, a whole host of district individuals who may come in contact, who work in the educational environment, to complete training regarding child abuse in the educational setting. And board members are included in that category. And John has, highlighted to us in Thursday Themes where we can find the link to complete that training. And it's from our Needham Safety Consultants. So nice to remember that and tune into it. The next policy is 6190, and that's the Workplace Violence Prevention Policy Statement, which John spoke about earlier. This is a time-sensitive policy requirement from the Department of Labor. And this policy was, we talked about it in policy committee, and then it went to one of the required features is that we have a multi-stakeholder work violence advisory committee, and they took a look at the policy samples that we had, and they recommended back to the policy committee. They were happy with the Erie One BOCES policy template, and that is the policy that is moving forward, being recommended to first read tonight. And the policy itself just covers, provides an overview, definitions, reporting requirements, and details about the work advisory committee, etc. The next policy for first read is 7220, graduation options, early graduation, and accelerated programs. And that the policy committee reviewed per our manual Lake George policy review. And the changes that are being suggested are just wordsmithing adjustments, not anything substantive. And the last policy is 5660, meal charging and prohibition against meal shaming. And this policy came before the policy committee by way of superintendent referral due to a recommendation from NICED's school lunch audit, which has advised us to add a non-discrimination statement to this policy. And that is the singular change, I think, on this policy is at the end of the policy is a non-discrimination statement. We have two policies here that we're recommending to be retired. And the first one is 4211 organizational chart. And you may recall, Erie One BOCES had recommended, our policy services recommended that we retire this policy because it's more procedural in nature than policy based. And yet I don't know if you remember policy 1330, which is called, see if I can find it. Appointments, designations, authorizations, and recurring reviews and adoptions by the board. Because the organizational chart gets reviewed and updated every year, we decided instead we're going to retire the policy, but put that element in policy 1330, where we have a list of recurring responsibilities. So that's already moved. That other policy 1330 has already moved to second read. So we're looking to retire the organizational chart policy tonight. And the other policy being recommended for retiring is the 7212 response to intervention RTI process. And that policy, the content has been streamlined into the pre-referral intervention strategies and response to intervention processes. We changed the name of it. In second read tonight, 7616, that policy contains the content, the pertinent information related to RTI. So it'll live in 7616, and we're recommending that we retire 7212. And our next policy meeting is in March. And that's my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Mary Ann, as always, for your thorough report. I appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is our first of two public comment periods. And this first period is for items that are on the agenda. And there's sign-up sheets for the first and second public comment periods. We didn't have anybody sign up for the first one. If you didn't have an opportunity to sign the sign-up sheet, you're still welcome to make a public comment. We have these sign-up sheets so that we have people's names and contact information, and that allows us to be more efficient in being able to get back to folks who have comments or questions for us. Okay. So that the policy's on the agenda, so that is something that could be, if you have a comment about that policy. Oh, if it's something that is not on the agenda, that would be for the second comment period. So before you come up, I just want to read our monthly little piece, and then I welcome you to come. I mean, you're welcome to stay in there while I read it if you want, but the Lake George Central School District Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, and other interested persons to its meetings. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that the board can better understand and represent the views of its constituents. Please be aware that by law, individual student information or particular personnel issues cannot be discussed at public sessions of the board. Please tell us your name when you come to the microphone. Statements are limited to 3 minutes. The board and district staff take the public comments very seriously, and careful notes of questions and comments and concerns are taken so that they can be addressed, and we can get back to you as soon as possible. The first, as we just discussed, the first comment, public comment period is for items on the agenda. If anybody's attending virtually and you have a comment or question, please send an email to boe@lkgeorge.org. And board members, superintendent will be able to view those emails after the meeting, and we can get back to you. And thank you in advance for helping maintain a safe and respectful decorum. So welcome. And I'll jot your name down on the,
My name is Greg Sterrett, and I wanted to thank Bonnie and John for that great presentation tonight. And I think this is a very, very serious thing that's going on. The state is rescinding funds that they were promised, or not says promised, but that just to be taking away our funding there. I think it's something that we all need to get behind. The advocacy thing. I really want to get some information on that and what we write the letters. I guess we're writing to senators and anybody who'll listen. We need to get it out there. We need to get everybody up on this. Years ago, we tied yellow ribbons around a tree during the Gulf War. Well, let's tie orange ribbons around there. Let's get it, save our funding. Let's get this out into the public. That they can't do this. And remember, you're voting for these people that are just taking away your funding. They're also telling you that you got to take your stuff off to your gym floor, and they got to get an electric bus that's not going to run in the wintertime. Well, so you're going to have to heat the bus to keep it warm, to go there. Lots of things that they even thought of that it hasn't. They're just throwing things out there lately and stuff. And I don't think things are being well thought through. There, but that's my opinion and that, but I'm just saying, this funding's pretty important. We have a great school. We have incredible programs. We're putting kids, out there in the world. And we're making good people here, and education is hugely important if we're going to have a great country. So I really want to tell everybody, about the website, and I want to get a slogan and get people going and get all hyped up about this, because it's unacceptable. And they need to know that we're small little towns. All those small little towns, that's not fair. Just because you got a big city with thousands and millions of voters and stuff like that, they got to listen to us. So be loud, say something. So thank you very much. Thank you guys for that.
thank you, Greg. Is there anyone else? Okay. The next item on our agenda is the school business consent agenda. And yes, that's the next item.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through K. Item A, just in summary here, the items are item A is the minutes from the January board meeting. Item B is reference to recommendations on committee on special education. Item C is the treasurer's and the treasurer and extracurricular reports. Item D is claims auditor reports. Item E is a motion to approve the Student Future Business Leaders of America request to attend the FBLA State Leadership Conference competition in Rochester, New York on April 10th through April 12th, and the National FBLA Conference in Orlando, Florida on June 29th through July 2nd. Dates are approximate and attendance is dependent on students qualifying for events. Item F is the motion, our customary motion regarding 2 readings of our policies as referenced earlier. Item G is a motion to declare February surplus list and surplus property of no value to the district that is obsolete or beyond repair. Item H is a motion to accept a gift in the amount of $500 from the ExxonMobil Education Alliance Program, which will be utilized in elementary areas of STEM. Item I is a motion to rescind the 2 policies referenced earlier. Item J is a motion to accept the proposal for the amount of $43,875 submitted by AJ Catalfamo Construction as general contractor for the masonry work for our HVAC, which is being funded through the ESSER federal funds. Item K is a motion to approve the Junior Honor Society field trip request to Montreal, Canada on April 26, 2024.
Do we have? We have any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the 2024-2025 school calendar.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the 2024-2025 school calendar.
Second.
Do we have any questions? Any discussion? I just like to make a comment. I know a lot of work goes into the school calendar. There's a lot of moving parts, and thank you for all the hard work and creativity for that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the mascot and Laker imagery.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the mascot Georgie and the use of a branding guide in support of the Lakers nickname and mascot.
So moved.
Do you have any questions? Any discussion?
I would just make a comment. I just want to say that I just feel really proud to endorse this resolution, the mascot and the branding guide, the use of a branding guide. And it's just really wonderful that all of the efforts, the student initiative, student-led initiative, all the support from the administrators and other staff, and the inclusion of full K-12 participation. I just think it's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the faculty staff appointments.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby appoints Howard Grant to the probationary position of cleaner nights in the non-competitive class of civil service, effective January 29th.
So moved.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is Board of Education comments and discussion. Do we have any this evening? All right, in a rare form tonight, we're quiet, so it's a rare event. The next item on the agenda is our second public comment period. And again, we did not have anybody sign up for that one, but if you didn't and you've changed your mind or didn't have an opportunity, come on forward. Thank you.
Good evening, Lisa Doster, resident of the district. This board has been so focused on a dangled carrot of funding that we've missed the opportunity to be independent from state funding. In December 2021, I met with our then board president and vice president, several parents, and our interim super, and I boldly forewarned of the unnecessary focus, unnecessary policy, and unnecessary spending in times of uncertainty. We were led down the rabbit hole we are now currently in with the state funding being cut. Someone from this board should take responsibility and resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there anybody else who would like to come for public comment? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is proposed executive session and we do not anticipate coming back out into into open session after this meeting, this portion. And do I read this part? Or, yes, okay. As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District enter into executive session for discussion on the Board of Education self-evaluation. Thank you again, everyone, for, oh, yeah, we got to vote on this.
So moved.
Listen, you, second, do we have any questions? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. I learn something new every day. Right? Thank you again. And thanks for helping keep me straight, guys.